Hello. So it's quite full, isn't it, today? Even compared to last week. So yeah, I'm Artie K2. I'm going to be giving the talk or presentation today. And the title that I gave it is Advice for Meditators. So I'm not quite sure whether there will be much advice for meditators, we will see. But that was the title that came because I've been reading a particular text from a Buddhist teacher, and that was the name of the text. And that led me kind of like into a particular exploration. So it kind of also made me realize something about myself. So I got an email from a friend of mine, a Lokadara, a while ago, and because actually in a way what I'm going to be talking about is Buddhist wisdom. And in that email exchange that I had with Lokadara, my friend, he was saying, I was asking him what he was doing and what he's interested in and what he's following in terms of his kind of studies with Buddhism and reflection. And he said something, there was just this line in the email that he sent back to me, and he said, "Oh, you're into all of that Dzogchen stuff, aren't you?" That's what he said. So, and it made me realise, yeah, I am actually. So Dzogchen is a particular tradition, kind of in Buddhism. It's a particular stage of the path in terms of like Padmasambhava's, in terms of what's called the Nyingmapa Buddhism. It's like the last stage of that path is Dzogchen, and it's lots of different methods, meditation methods, teachings to help you to realize wisdom. And what this kind of email did was it kind of made me remember something. So this is one of my points for the talk, really. It made me remember that quite a long time ago, when I was in Manchester, we would regularly do puja. So puja is devotional practice. We do that kind of every week. We don't do it as much. I think you do it on Fridays, but it's a bit more shorter. But we do the sevenfold puja. And what I realised is I learned a lot of Dharma, a lot of the Buddhist teachings through doing puja. Because at a certain point in the puja, a reading would be read out. And on this particular night, there was a reading that got read out, and it's called Padmasambhava's Advice to the Three Fortunate Women Before Departure. And that reading has become a kind of companion to me. I'm not really going to say, in a certain sense, I'm not going to say much about the reading, although it definitely informs what I'm going to be talking about. And in the text, the first part of the text, it's kind of broken into two. A queen asks for advice, and she says to him that I would like to memorize something that could, at a later time, lead me to Buddhahood. That's the request that she makes. And Padmasambhava gives her some advice. And the meditation part, it's like the text in a way, it's like 3 pages, it's the whole path really. But the meditation part of the text, I would say, is a Dzogchen teaching. And it fascinated me, like kind of certain words, certain phrases. So it's something that I've returned to again and again and again, kind of reflected on, re-reflected on, took on retreat, tried to understand it from the perspective of meditation, kind of this particular text. What is it trying to say? How do I practice in this kind of way from reading this text? So the point that I want to make from that is, if you find something in the Dharma which really sparks your interest, keep on returning to it and see whether you can take your understanding of it deeper. So the kind of link went from this advice for meditators to this sense of remembering this particular text, Padmasambhava's Advice to the Three Fortunate Women, to kind of looking at what kind of Dharma, what kind of Buddhist teachings I'd accumulated over time, and kind of seeing, oh, actually, there's quite a lot of these teachings that are kind of from that tradition. Yeah, and then I started to look a bit more at that. And that led me to have a sense of, oh, what I want to talk about today is something from that kind of inspires me in a way. And I wanted to talk about Buddhist wisdom. So, fight with the tree or whatever it is, plant. So yeah, you will all be very familiar, well, quite a lot of you will be very familiar with this, yeah? So this is the kind of starting point. So it's the threefold path. So ethics, meditation and wisdom. And it's like you can fit all of Buddhism within this threefold path. It's such a good teaching. And I was thinking that sometimes maybe the word ethics in and of itself doesn't say very much. So what is ethics about? It's to do with, you could say, responding rather than reacting. And it's to do with cultivating certain things like kindness and generosity and truthfulness. So it's about your behaviour. And then you've got meditation, which has got two strands to it really. It's got samatha, which means tranquility or calm, and it's got vipassana, which means something like what it's to do with seeing. It's to do with trying to see things as they are. And that particular aspect of meditation leads to wisdom. So often the teaching is kind of like it's presented maybe from the bottom up. But in a way, it's like because it encompasses the whole of Buddhism, you'll kind of end up talking about some of this when you talk about Buddhism. The other thing that's probably there by, well, it's there but not mentioned is compassion. So wisdom and compassion, you could say. But what I was thinking is that there's another way of talking about things, which is more from the top down. Yeah, so you kind of like, you start with wisdom and then you work out what implications that has for everything else. So that's kind of what I want to do. Thank you. So, sit down for a bit. So what I want you to imagine is that this flip chart, this blank sheet of paper, is your mind. So your mind is spacious, your mind is open, your mind is clear, maybe it's tranquil. So these kind of things, this is what your mind is like. But so you've just meditated, and maybe that was not what your mind was like. Yeah. So it's not the only thing that's going on, is it, when we look at our mind? So the other thing is, so I'll put this in the WhatsApp group. So the Diamond Sutra says, the Diamond Sutra is a wisdom text from the Mahayana tradition, and it gives, near the end of this particular text, it gives a list of images. So this is what it says. It says, as stars, a fault of vision, as a lamp, a mock show, dewdrops, or a bubble, a dream, a lightning flash, or a cloud. So should one view what is conditioned. So taking an image from that text, the image of bubbles. So, the mind is open and spacious, But the mind also has movement. There are things that move through the mind. So, for instance, a thought or a sensation or sometimes, well, in terms of volition, it's kind of like sometimes you get a sense that the mind is moving towards something or moving away from something. So the mind is moving towards something or moving away from something. And given that these are bubbles, they arise and dissolve. So our thoughts arise and dissolve, and arise and dissolve, and arise and dissolve. Also, what can be there present in your experience is sensation that's pleasant. So this is pleasant sensation in the body. The body feels relaxed. The shoulder, like Lalitharatna was saying, the shoulders drop. There's a sense of relief. Or it could be unpleasant sensation or feeling, it's usually called, such as tightness or a sense of being held. And those things sometimes they're kind of flashing in and out, so it's kind of like a bit more like they're kind of flashing, they're moving, yeah. But that is the movement part of your experience. So there's space and there's movement, yeah. This is the basic way that I try to see experience when I'm meditating. That there's space and there's movement. And also that the movement it comes into being and it passes away. Yeah? Comes into being and it passes away. So it's impermanent. It's changing. And also, when you get close enough, you can't really grasp it. Like kind of a thought comes, thought goes. Kind of sensation, the same. You can't really grasp it. So it's also insubstantial. So that's Buddhism from the perspective of wisdom. From early Buddhism, this is the way you would look at your experience. You'd look at your experience and you would see, oh, there's a thought. It comes and it goes. Here's an emotion. Comes, it goes. But even that suggests something, yeah? It suggests that you're aware. It suggests that you know what's going on. And it suggests that you're looking at your experience through a particular lens. The lens of impermanence or insubstantiality. But what is it normally like? So that's your thought. And that's a cage. So this is how we often, whether we know it or not, this is how we live in our life. We live in our life imprisoned, basically, from a Buddhist perspective. So I'm going to kind of show you this in a different kind of way. So this came from the kind of training that I've done recently with Breathworks. It's a very good little way of showing what happens in relationship to thought. So the space of the room is your mind, and this is a thought. Yeah? Oops. So what generally happens is when a thought arises, we enter it. Yeah? It just happens. This is how it is. But we can also look at it. So there's a kind of movement in meditation which is you're either in your thoughts or you can look at them. And that kind of movement is like, as soon as you recognise where you are, what's going on, then, well, there's a few things that have happened. I can see what's happening, and there's a lot more space. When I'm here, kind of in the thought, I'm in this cage. So things like, and I suppose it's a cage because when you enter it, it defines you, and you don't realise anymore its impermanent nature. You don't realise that it's ungraspable. So, there are lots of thoughts, aren't there? So it could be things like, and in a way I'm going to be a bit gross, this is not probably how you might think. It might be more like an image arises or a felt sense in the body, for instance, and you know, I'm happy. So there's a thought. Or you feel a bit closed off and all the rest of it, and you know, I'm sad. Or you've got lots of money, I'm rich. Or you've not got a lot, I'm poor. Or you get a promotion, I'm successful. You lose your job, I'm a failure. I feel joy, I feel depressed, I feel calm, I feel anxious. Every time you define yourself like that, it's like the cage is always there. You could say that the cage maybe tightens, you become more constricted. Yeah. So I'm depressed. So the question that I've been asking myself recently is, what is actually going on? What am I actually experiencing? Yeah. I'm depressed, or I feel low. Okay. What am I experiencing? I'm experiencing certain sensations in my body and certain thoughts, and then the conclusion that I'm coming to is I feel low or I feel depressed, and in that moment everything is solidified. Yeah. Now the thing is, because everything is moving and changing all of the time, probably even if I didn't do anything, well, perhaps it might be that it just changes. Yeah. Certain other conditions come into my life, and now I'm not in that particular state of mind. I was also thinking this morning with this kind of like, with this image of a cage, that it's like we become successful. Yeah, we're earning lots of money. We've got nice things. We've got a lovely house. We've got lovely furniture and all the rest of it. Great. Yeah, the cage has got a bit bigger, but you're still in it. I kind of also thought, like in relationship to relationships, it's like, oh, is it that actually what happens is that the two cages sort of come together? So now you're a cage, you're in the cage, but you define yourself as, well, a couple. Yeah. But actually closer to the truth, I think, really, in that scenario, is that this cage, say for instance, just use myself as an example, me, I've got an image of my girlfriend, and in her cage, she's got an image of me. And that's what I'm communicating with, this idea of what I think she's like. She's communicating with the idea of what she thinks I'm like. But every now and again, because I'm not her image and she's not my image, I do things that are not within that sphere, yeah? That causes a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. So maybe that'll do for the cage part. Maybe I'll come back to it, I don't know. So I've given you a couple of perspectives. One perspective is from early Buddhism, that all of our experiences arises and passes, it's impermanent. All of our experience is insubstantial. When we do not realise that, when we take what is impermanent to be permanent, we suffer. When we take what is insubstantial, so we're not able to grasp it as substantial, we suffer. And we suffer because of what I've just said. It's like we suffer because we've just defined ourselves and we've defined our world. Actually, I'll give you one more example. So this week, I was cycling back from work. I just earned some money, not that much, but I'd earned some money. And I decided that I wouldn't go round the roundabout. I don't usually do that anyway. I would cross over this bit of pavement over here to get to the road. So what happened? The Ordnungsamt were there. 4 of them. So the guy stopped me, took my ID, and there was another woman stood here, kind of sort of being friendly, but also with a bit of a sense of like, she just seems to be making sure that I don't run away. But the guy had my ID, and I said to her, well, I didn't know about this. So what is he doing? Oh, he's taking your details. And why is he taking my details? Because you're going to get a letter. So in my mind I'm thinking, fine. Why am I going to get a letter? What's going to happen? Oh yeah, you're going to get a fine. Yeah. So just earn some money and then I'm going to give it away now. So then I went back. I'm writing this talk. I sat down to meditate. You could imagine what kind of happened. And some of it is shocking, actually. Your mind is shocking. So I'm sat there meditating. There's a sense of space and ease, maybe for a short period of time. And then an image comes to my mind. This was probably the 3rd or the 4th image, but this is probably the most shocking. I had a gun and I was shooting the people. Yeah. So luckily, I know this is just my imagination. These are my thoughts. I haven't got a gun. So nothing's going to happen. And what is that going to do, Articator? I had lots of other kind of scenarios about like fighting them in court. Obviously, probably winning and all the rest of it. And then it's like, it's not going to work, is it? They're the Ordnungsamt. You're just going to have to pay your €25 fine. That's the bottom line. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. But I suppose what I'm saying from this perspective, it is like noticing, what am I actually doing? I'm imagining. The other thing that I find really interesting about this is, so sometimes in Buddhism they talk about duality, don't they? Self and other. If you watch your mind, you will see duality getting created. So here I am in relationship to these members of the Ordnungsamt that I'm going to shoot. So I've created self and other. And I'm in conflict with other, which is all my mind. It's all my projection. It's all my imagination. That is all it is. If I can be aware enough to say, in that moment, I'm imagining this, then to some extent, in that moment, the cage dissolves, actually. When you see things with wisdom, there's a sense of release, a sense of relief, a sense of relaxation. But part of the problem is you've got to keep on seeing and seeing and seeing, looking and looking and looking again and again and again to establish that view within your experience. It's not fast. So, one more perspective in relationship to wisdom. So I've got to find my sheet. So again, this is your mind. So I'm going to describe what your mind is like. So this is perhaps your enlightened mind. This is what your enlightened mind is like. So these are not my words. It's called the Song of the Vajra. Unborn, yet continuing without interruption. Neither coming nor going, omnipresent, supreme Dharma. Unchangeable space without definition. Spontaneously self-liberating. Perfectly unobstructed state. Manifest from the very beginning. Self-created without location. With nothing negative to reject and nothing positive to accept. Infinite expanse penetrating everywhere. Immense and without limits and without ties. With nothing even to dissolve or to be liberated from. Manifest beyond space and time. Existing from the beginning. Immense yin, inner space. Radiant through clarity. Like the sun and the moon, self-perfected, indestructible like a Vajra, stable as a mountain, pure as a lotus, strong as a lion, incomparable pleasure beyond all limits, illumination, equanimity, peak of the Dharma, light of the universe, perfect from the beginning. So that is your mind. But that is obviously probably not what you tend to experience, is it? Maybe occasionally. So this is your mind. So you can't see it. That's the problem. And you haven't recognized it. But Buddhism is saying that the potential, what I've just read, is there. The potential to realize that is there. And again, the problem is that it's covered over. So what's it covered over with? So it said that it's covered over with what are called the adventitious defilements. But you could say that it's covered over with your ignorance, it's covered over with your craving, with your hatred, with your jealousy, with your envy. They're the 5 poisons. Probably there's quite a lot of other things. It's some texts talk about thought coverings. So it's covered over by thought. But it is always there. So this to me was like, when I was imagining giving this talk, I was thinking, oh yeah, it's like we're all sat here, but we're covered over, aren't we? We're kind of, our true potential, our awakening is not manifest. It's there as potential. And I was also thinking that the practices that we do, for instance, when we do more samatha practice, meditation practice that leads to tranquility and calm, this veil becomes thinner. When we practice ethics, the veil becomes thinner. So there's more chance that what is kind of behind can shine through. But the only thing that will remove the veil is insight. Is insight, is seeing things as they are. So, you ready? So I'm going to give you one more way of looking. Well, actually, it's kind of two. So one of them is this. So there's the space of your mind, and there's the movement that happens, the movement of thought. So what happens when the thought dissolves? What does the thought dissolve into? And then the other thing is this. This kind of came from one of my friends, Balaji, and I thought it was a really good way of talking about two different ways that we look from the perspective of insight. So one of them is that we look here. We look at what moves, and we see that what moves is always changing, never static, impermanent, insubstantial. And when we see that, then there is a sense of liberation and freedom. So what is manifest or what appears? But equally, and this is kind of what these other teachings are getting at, you can also look here. So you're not looking there, you're looking here. You're looking more at what the things manifest from. So you're going to have to work that out, what that means. Maybe at some point over time. And the question that is often asked is, who is the one that is doing the looking? Who is the one that is doing the looking? So, as a bit of encouragement, it's interesting. Seems to have gone. So I wanted to finish with a particular text. So it's another teaching from Padmasambhava. So I can remember one of the lines that I found that in a way gets at what I wanted to sort of say. So it says something like, you must look at your own mind is insubstantial like the empty sky. It is certain that your own mind is insubstantial like the empty sky. You should look at your own mind to see whether it is like this or not. And this text, it's called the Self-Liberation Through Seeing with Naked Awareness. It repeats that line after each of these things. It's getting you to look in different ways. It says, look at your own mind to see whether it is like that or not. So that's my kind of final point. The encouragement to look, to really see in your experience what is going on. And sort of apply Buddhist wisdom in a sense. Like I suppose what we would say probably from our tradition is, we always start with samatha, we always start with tranquility and calm and loving kindness, and you're within a tradition. You've got friends, So it's like there's lots of support around you. Maybe you're doing study. All of those things are preparing the mind to look. Yeah, but it's only you that can do the looking. So look at your own mind and see whether it is like that or not. So that's it.